Shalom, shalom, peace, peace. Shalom, be the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it's in his name, which is his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Come on in. How you doing? Shabbat shalom. Tadach Yasser, Barak Allah Sham Yechava, and I Kofi, Kohelet, the servants of Christ, Mashalom Che. Hello, everybody. I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Thank you for being on this tonight as we continue our Q&A. We'll be finished about 8:35, 8:40-ish, somewhere in there. Don't want to push too much past 8:45, something like that. But we continue our Q&A session we've been doing and keep that going. We stopped a little bit with some stuff on creation, where people had asked about the choir, or what others would call the firmament, things of that nature. So kind of put this up just because that's where we left off and had some pretty interesting conversation, if we want to call it that. It kind of went a couple different ways, but we thank you guys for being on with us. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, if you have something you want to kind of keep up from yesterday on that, or something you'd like to add, or something you want to ask about anything, feel free to go ahead. I know we kind of left off there when we were talking about the heavens, or heaven, and then multiple heavens, breathing in heaven. Then talking about Aquia, what is the sky? What is this reference point we're using? How far can we go with it? How can we use it? How can we not use it? So if you have questions, comments, and concerns, feel free to go ahead and ask those questions. I apologize because of the lighting, because I'm outside right now. Probably not going to be able to see me too well. I might go in and out, but hopefully you'll be able to hear me the whole time on TikTok. If you're on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us once again. How's everybody doing? How you doing? Michi, Denise, Lillian. Okay, interesting. Okay, I see your question. We'll try and start there and see if we can bounce from there. About the Balaam doctrine. How you doing, Big Brother Thomas, Coco, Sister Monica, everybody? By the way, reminder, so class will be on. My wife says she's feeling up to doing class tonight, so those who have class will be on. Tomorrow we will have our live session at 8. We'll have our Shabbat Shalom service at 10, and then at 11. And who's actually on tomorrow? Let's see. Let's double check. Oh, it is me. I'm pretty sure. So I'll be on for the podcast, and at 11, we'll be doing our SOC, using our SOC community meeting link for Zoom. If you have that, or if you'd like to even share it with somebody, you can feel free. And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow for that. And we'll have something just with the Hebrew characters, something basic. We're hoping that we'll have some of the babies, some of the children on, that they might be able to write some of this stuff out. And maybe even if they have questions, they can be able to ask some questions and stuff tomorrow. And don't forget that coming up on Monday through Friday next week, we'll be doing our family fast. So thanks for being on. How you doing? It was the Barber Sauce King. All right, how you doing? You say first, who wins, Booker T or The Undertaker? Well, even if that was going to be a joking question, shouldn't you ask something about something where wrestlers are actually resting today? Undertaker's retired. Booker T is pretty much semi-retired, except for he came back for the Royal Rumble, I think, right? And if you're making a connection with my name, hey, hopefully you support my Ghanaian brother in his endeavors. But if that's your way I'm saying hello, how are you doing? Hey, how you doing, Sister Latoya? How you doing, Heavy MC? How you doing, Tosh? How you doing, Miss Pierce? Oh, wow, Miss Pierce. I don't know if the person reached out to you, but I didn't double check with them to make sure they did. Oh, wow. I'm gonna have to just reach out to you personally tomorrow, but also I'm gonna have somebody reach out to you. I'll explain what the plan is. Gosh. Okay. But thank you guys for being on. How you doing, Sister Deborah? How you doing, Sister Nancy? So first question I see, how do I discern the Balaam doctrine between two situations that fit the narrative? So if you can help me a little bit with that, because when you say two situations that fit the narrative, because Balaam doctrine specifically, we're talking about doctrine that somebody is basically trying to create to be able to cause a curse to Israel. And that's something that the Most High is not playing with. So there's a few different ways. So when you say two different things that fit the narrative, if you can help me out, like, because how do we discern between two things that fit the narrative? Are you saying something sounds and something else sounds like it's correct doctrine, and how can I tell? Because a bunch of stuff that fits in. So I want to make sure I answer the question correctly. If you don't mind, I apologize. Not to try and skate on you, if you could just give me maybe a little more direction with it, because I don't want to just talk about something, because I'm not even sure where I would start. I would probably be so broad that I would answer you a specific question. So if you could just help me with that a little bit, if you don't mind. But any questions, comments, or concerns? Today is Q&A. So tonight is Q&A. How you doing, Sister Beverly? And so if tonight is Q&A, hopefully you guys have some questions, comments, concerns about anything. I just put this up here because it's where we left off yesterday. And I know there were some questions I didn't get a chance to get to. Or even if you have some questions, even if we have to do a little bit of repeating on what we were talking about. But I'm trying to, if you don't mind, how do I discern the Balaam doctrine between two situations that fit the narrative? I'm not sure. I'd have to know the situations, I guess, or I'd have to see what exactly what the mindset is on that. Because once again, Balaam doctrine is basically just anything that causes somebody to say that we're going to do something that would curse Israel. We're going to use a prophet. We're going to use a word that's given. We're going to use a biblical reference point to be able to say that something is what it's not. So Balaam doctrine is when we have to be on guard to make sure that we know enough of the law, as Matthew chapter 5, verse 20, the Messiah himself tells us, Yeshua HaMashiach tells us specifically, we should know the law greater than the scribes and the Pharisees. So it's important that we would know what's going on doctrine-wise, or else we'll probably, get caught up in some stuff. But I would have to know exactly what that is, because it could be anything like, hey, I should be able to have, hey, how you doing, Sister Tracy? It could be anything like somebody might say, hey, I should be able to have multiple wives, right? The Bible never says you should be able to have multiple wives. It doesn't support it in any way, shape, or form. There are men who have made a decision to have multiple wives, and it never worked out correct. It was never a great thing. So I'd have to see there. Is there only going to be 144,000 saved? If we're talking about the numbers specifically, no, the numbers are representation. Just like if you see something like times and half a time, that gives us 1,260. And that really is talking about physically, right? So physically, it could be 1,260 days. If it's talking about a dream or a vision, it could be 1,260 years. You can have stuff that represents 12 tribes, 12 crowns that are on the head of Israel, right? In Revelation chapter 12, at the same time, all others can be grafted in and be able to come in as well, right? According to Revelation chapter 7. So the 144,000, we're talking about we're talking about multiplication or exponential growth, fruit, seed that's being sown, and fruit that comes out of it, right? So 12 times 1,000, basically, right? 1,000-fold is a lot of multiplication, right? Anything that multiplies 1,000 basically is almost like we start getting into eternal terms, because what happens out of the 1,000 and what happens out of their seed and things like that. So the 12,000 per tribe, and even in that, it's not even the original 12 tribes that are listed, right? Because 2 of the tribes are replaced by Ephraim and Manasseh. So you're dealing with something that's talking about making sure that we comprehend that there's going to be exponential growth. And even outside the 144,000, then we have, even look at Revelation chapter 6. There are those that have been slain that are waiting for justice to come along, right? And even out of the 144,000, after that's described, there's still all nations, tongues, tribes, and languages, if they follow the law and if they are grafted into those who are sealed, right? According to Romans 11, if they're grafted into those that are sealed, then even they still are going to come on. So the 144,000 is showing us the order, the structure, and giving us a mindset of exponential growth, right? Yeah, because a lot of Israelites do say that that's it. And even if that's it, then it becomes a very moot point as far as what we're doing, right? Because if what we're doing is all is going to be 144,000, nothing else matters. First of all, Revelation 7 shouldn't even be listened to. Secondly, we got a problem then, because if anyone who believes can come in, and yes, even in like stuff like Revelation, I think 14, 15, 16, somewhere in there are songs in certain places and things that even Israelites will have for themselves, even in heaven. It still talks about those being grafted and still being able to get in. So there still has to be a structure, there's an order. So we have to be the ones ready to be the portal, so to speak, or be the bridge, or to be the people who are teaching. But that kind of goes into a lot of things that aren't really, you know, yeah, you said it exactly. Makes people feel hopeless. And by the way, let's just keep it 100. If there's only be 144,000, let's do it like this. How many of these brothers and sisters that are preaching this, how many of them are going to get it anyway? So what's the point of them preaching it? Right. But it's really good. That's really more of a Pharisee doctrine. The Pharisees didn't even believe in the afterlife. So you got a problem with that just by itself. Right. So the Pharisees didn't even at one point believe in the afterlife, which means that now you got a Pharisee teaching to where like only certain people are going to get in, or there's only going to be a certain afterlife, or this and that or whatever. So it's much bigger than that. Obviously the word tells and projects this stuff, but yes, it gives us a number as far as us being able to get a mindset and a comprehension and an order and structure, and also us recognizing that the multiplication has happened, like the stars of the heavens, things like that, and seeing that the promise has been given that Israel has grown and that Israel will have their place, and that we cannot use Balaam doctrine to kind of come out of that. And how you doing? If I didn't say so already, how you doing, Urban Royalty? Please check her out on Sundays and really every day, so she's live. So you said Balaam was willing to curse Israel because he was offered silver, which is his weakness. If I'm being offered my weakness through scripture in two different situations, how do I discern which one is false? Okay. I think it might be something I might have to talk to you about, because I'm not sure if I'm still grasping it, but I'm going to do my best. Okay. I would say in that situation, first of all, realize what your weakness is. Now, if you're being offered your weakness in two different situations, just because I would say if you're being offered your weakness, see if you're being offered your weakness for a righteous cause or for a cause that's not righteous. And see, like, because the Balaam doctrine thing that helps us is at the end of the day, the Balaam doctrine is the main thing, right? Balaam's problem and what's being lifted up, they tried to hire Balaam to come up with false doctrine or to use his gift to be able to curse his own people. And so the main thing is, if somebody's trying to get you to curse your own people, to curse your family, to curse your position, to curse your mindset, to curse what Yah has for you, etc., if they want you to go against your calling, then we have to say, okay, we know what that is. We know what time it is. That's not the doctrine of the Most High. He doesn't want you to do something that would be a curse to you or your family or your people. So if we're dealing with that kind of Balaam doctrine, we need to recognize and realize really quickly, like, that's the issue. Now, if somebody offers you something and then says, hey, do it anyways, then we need to realize that we need to make sure that we got to make a choice at that point. Am I going to go ahead and let this person offer me my weakness and give up what my calling is, give up what my people need, etc.? Or am I going to still stay true to what I'm called to do? The offering to you to betray the will of the Most High is not as much as a problem as you're betraying the will of the Most High. If you don't betray the will of the Most High, whatever they offer you doesn't really matter that much, right? So that's how I would look at it, more so in that vein, right? If you're trying to give me something to cause me to betray what Yah has for me, right, then I'm not going to allow that to happen, right? If I'm allowing it to happen, right, that's the problem more so than anything else. So at that point, we need to start trying to ask for deliverance from whatever that thing is that would make you go against what you know you're called to do. Leave that alone. Right? If Yah's telling you to do something different and you're going to go ahead and do something outside of what he's calling you to do, that's more so what we need to look for, is how can we get deliverance from that? How can we destroy that thing, or how can we defeat that thing, destroy it, and then ultimately be delivered from it? Right? Because if there's anything that will cause you to say, I'm not going to do Yah's will, that's what I would look at more so than the other stuff. Right, if I'm catching the question. Great question, though. Any other questions? Any other questions, comments, concerns? Hopefully everybody's doing well. How are you guys doing, by the way? Thanks for being on this evening. As a reminder, class will be on for this evening. How is Prince Solomon doing? He's doing much better. He's doing much better. He's still healing, so he got a little more energy. He was ready to bounce around somewhat today, but I still had to balance him out some. You said, are the other planets non-existent? Planets exist. Now, I don't even know if what they show it. So here's the thing about a lot of stuff when it comes to space and things of that nature. Um, Pretty much everything that we're given, we have to trust what we're given. And NASA has admitted to us that everything they give us, now they'll say sometimes it's just as simple as adding coloring to it or doing this, doing that, but NASA says pretty much everything that they show us is has been manipulated in some way, shape, or form. Okay, no problem. Thank you. Oh, you deleted TikTok? Okay. Well, thanks for coming on here. Still appreciate you. Yeah. So I'm not really sure. Once again, I'm not really sure as to how oh, I'm sorry. So the planets. So planets, everything that we get about the planets, we have to see through somebody else's lens. And NASA has said that basically whether it be through like um, virtual reality, 3D graphics, things like that, they've said that everything that we've ever seen has basically been tampered with somewhat. So um, but the planets do exist. Now, what exactly they look like, and even like here's my thing too. Even when people talk about the sphere or talk about um, a core to these planets and all this stuff, we must also realize, at least from besides what they've told us about Mars, technically. So let's say what they tell us about Mars is true. Technically, the only two planets out of any planets, whether they be the 8 planets now that they say are in our solar system, because Pluto is not one, and they at one point they said there might be 10 planets. Now they said there's only 8 planets, or what they might call dwarf planets, or things that they say that they've seen a long, long ways away, light years away, and they're telling you it's probably a planet and probably can house life on it because they can tell there's oxygen, even though they can't, you know, read what's actually on the planet, and they're giving you theories more so than facts, right? However, in all these different things that are out there, we've never really been able to see it, so we're kind of trusting what somebody else is telling us. Um, these things that we see as far as planets, obviously there's truth to somewhat, like, but even when we see these things that are up, we don't really know what's on them. Like, for example, they tell us that they tell us that Venus basically is filled with nothing but gas. So as far as having a core on it, I don't know what the core of gas looks like or is. But they say, that it stays together. Now, on these planets, could it be possible? Like, I think the more the possibility is, even if there is a sphere, whether it's the look of it or whatever, this kind of, I'm saying sphere, I guess ball or whatever that you would want to call it, that seems to be around these planets doesn't mean that the ground or the terraform or the earth or whatever that's on there um, is actually like round itself or whatever. We don't really know. And even some of the stuff that we have of pictures of the earth from even the first time that they said it left the earth, we have some things that kind of are interesting and kind of weird um, to look at and kind of weird to deal with. Um, So yeah, but I mean, as far as just the basic question, I was like the planets. Yeah, I would say what they call the planets, because who knows if that's even what they are per se. I don't know what the Most High actually has them created for. So, but who's to say if those planets are, what they say they are? We really don't know what Jupiter looks like. We have guesses as to what Jupiter. We really don't know what Saturn looks like. We have guesses as to what Saturn is. We have really educated guesses, but we have guesses. So, as far as planets, I mean, I would say they're out there for you to be able to look at and see. But everything that we see in space, is a theory. Everything is theoretical. Most of it hyper theoretical, right? Even to a place where I would say, like, for example, somebody says we know that stars are born, and they'll tell you that they're these nebulas that stars, or these nurseries that stars are born out of. Problem with that is that nobody's ever seen this. They say that we see some things, we see some stars that are in some of these nebulas or whatever, and so this must be the birthplace of stars. Problem is nobody's ever seen a star be born, right? Hello, how you doing, Jeffrey? So it's just a lot of stuff that we're told, and as much as people don't want, I don't like using this term the way that everybody else does as far as religion, because religion literally means what a legion of people repetitively do. But if we use it the way we normally do, meaning what somebody's belief is, then by that same definition, if you will, um, most of the stuff that we hear about space is somebody's religion, right? It's mostly theoretical. Like, you can't sit here and tell me that you can tell me how old the universe is, but and exactly what caused it to be set in motion, and then teach it, and then tell that's not religious. But then we tell you what the Bible says about the universe, and you say that that's religious, and both of them need faith. So it gets into a faith a faith-based conversation from two different sides, where you're having two different sides argue two different philosophies and theologies, and you know, both of them trying to win per se. And I've gotten to a place where I'm not really trying to win or be right. I'm trying to be righteous. So, like I've said before, I was saying last night, you got a lot of people that'll say, well, the universe is however many billion years, 13 point something billion years, 15 point something, 16 point something billion years, whatever, because of the speed of light. However, parts of the universe travel faster than the speed of light. So if something travels faster than the speed of light, then how can you say you know how old it is? And that's according to their theory. I don't know that it travels faster than the speed of light. The speed of light is something that they came up with, right, out of their religion. How you doing, Sister Patricia? Just like atoms, for example. Atoms supposedly were supposed to be the smallest thing. Now, scientists will say, oh, well, they were the smallest thing until we got something scientific to disprove it. No, the reason why you call it atoms is because out of Greek, what you want to now call philosophy, but it was out of Greek religiosity, their religious belief is that there cannot be anything smaller than an atom. Anything that's ever been created is made up of atoms, right? So when they started getting the subatomic particles, they started going against their own religion. And then they started saying, well, religion doesn't matter. But it's like, well, religion doesn't matter once you broke your own religion, right? So like what they're talking about with an atom, no, they don't even get it from Adam, even though I can see the correlation, because we would actually say Adam, and it would be pronounced a little different, and the characters would be a little different, right? But or even what Adam is made out of, we know what he's made out of. We would actually call that Adamach, right? So Adamach is what Adam is made out of, right? For them, an atom was something that the Greeks said was the smallest thing, right? In their language, in their culture, in their religion. So when you start getting into subatomic particles, that was them realizing their religion was wrong. Just like the Big Bang, although it was not initially called the Big Bang, because somebody tried to hit you with that as if that's going to change the conversation. However, right, what we now know is the Big Bang because of what was done on the radio show a little while ago in the story of mankind. The Big Bang theory basically comes not from a scientific place. It comes from the same thing, Greek mythology, or what they would have called their belief system. We call it mythology now, because they say, oh, this stuff that that they were spitting, we now know it's not correct, but we never believed it to be correct. So it was always mythology to us. Now it's mythology to them. At one point, it was their belief system, right? And in their belief system, they believed that in the beginning was nothing, and then Gaia hit, which is why everybody's initial Big Bang theories were specifically having to do with nothing and then an explosion. Then from there it was, well, nothing can turn into something because we don't believe in that. We'd be the same as those that believe in the Bible. See, so since they got to that place and they said, we really believe the same thing you do, they had to change it up. So then it became, well, the universe was the size of a few galaxies, and then it's shrunk down, and then it exploded. And then out of that, there was an explosion. Then it was the size of the Milky Way, and then there was an explosion. Then it was the size of our solar system, and then it exploded. Then it was the size of the Earth. Then it was the size of a period in a magazine. Right? Then it was on the size. Then it was the size of a period on a magazine. Right? And then they said no. Then they went back to nothing came from something. Then they started having a module where now the most modern one that everybody wants to keep up with is, they say there were 3 types of solar systems or Milky Ways. I don't know how they want to, or galaxies. I don't know how they want to describe them, but there were these 3 systems, and the 2 or 3 systems hit each other, and they caused an explosion, and that's what caused the Big Bang, right? So there's a lot of different stuff. You said all religions have a piece of the puzzle, but even then, that's a small piece. Well, I would agree with you to a certain extent. Problem is that the word religion means a legion of people that repetitively do the same thing, right? And that there's a lot of things that people pick and choose. And I think usually that's what we use to pick and choose. And oftentimes what we do with people's religions, just as we do with people's culture or people's way of life, is that we say, this is what I like out of it, so this is what I choose to accept. This is what I choose to accept as proof. This is what I've been taught, so this is what I'll accept. And we kind of just do this. But the reality is that There's a lot of stuff that we're out here saying somebody believes, and if you look up their belief system, it's not even close, right? So I would agree with you. There's that even as many degrees as you have, there's 360 degrees in a circle. So you got to keep learning all the time. There are also certain things that might just be bigger than you and I to be able to get to glean from, right? But I'm always careful to do the whole thing. Like, for example, I speak on these all the time. Somebody will say, well, you know what? I think that the Muslim da 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 da. And I'm like, well, have you read the Quran? Well, yeah, okay. Have you read the books that go with the Quran? What do you mean? Well, there's at least one book you should read that goes with the Quran, because you have to know what the people who walked with Muhammad said, because Muhammad doesn't really talk that much in the Quran. And that's how a lot of people have gotten their mindset, whether they use it detrimentally, they use it positively, they talk about it in a negative or positive fashion. This is where a lot of people get their belief from, is what they interpret by reading it or what somebody else has told you their interpretation of it is. And many people have not read what the people who actually walked with Muhammad heard and what his context was of what he used, right? So you'll hear a lot of different things that come out of that. Or you'll hear somebody say, I'm a Buddhist. And I'm like, okay, well, do you believe that Buddha is reincarnated? Because some people do. If you are one of those groups of people that believe Buddha could be reincarnated, problem with that is that the Buddha himself, Shakyamuni Buddha himself, said that he was going to leave. He was going to go back to being an elephant, spirit or elephant god or whatever you like to call it, in a different realm, and one of the 10 realms that they believe in. And he said that I'm not coming back. So the person who starts talking about reincarnation and the Buddha being here, that person can't really hold up to what is being taught. And you can see where they started to change it. Or even if you're going to talk about the culture of it, why don't you mention African culture when it comes to Buddhism? Because Buddha is known as the enlightened one because he came from the enlightened tribe. The enlightened tribe made their way all the way from West Africa east over to India. So there's a lot of different things that are there. You say, here's what I know to be true, not because of faith, but to trial and error. Your thoughts? I mean, what you're saying is your trial and error is better than what somebody else has. I would have to basically say, what is your trial and error? Because at the end of the day, here's something else that we got to be honest about. Your standard might not be mine, and that's that comes to a part of it too, where there's certain where it's like your trial and error. Like, so I'm not sure if you're the same person that was saying you had a dream, but you say you believe in Jesus. Problem is that the one whom you call Jesus doesn't even want to be called that name. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I hold people accountable to what they say that they believe in. Now, if you're once again doing the thing of I'm going to pick and choose and I'm going to say because of what I want, then that's fine. You can change it to whatever you want. I just feel like people should say I'm changing it to what I want. Okay, well, I don't know. I had somebody who was on here. I don't know if you're one of the same person. Somebody, I thought it was you, but maybe somebody else typed it up that said that, hey, I basically, died or was sick or had a dream or whatever, and I had a vision, and I know that Jesus is real. So if that was the case, then that's why I was saying, like, you know, okay, that wasn't you or somebody else. Okay, well, I don't know what your trial and error is once again. So I would have to just leave that there. I don't know what you mean by trial and error. But once again, people are saying I'm picking and choosing, I'm doing this, and I'm going to tell you this part is true, this part's not. I mean, it kind of sort of makes sense, but it at the same time doesn't make sense. It's I feel like it's very hyper theoretical. And at the end of the day, I feel like no matter if people want to use this term or not, we have to be honest. There's a term we're missing here, which is called faith. How you doing, Minister Morel? And a lot of people, at some point, you just got to have faith on certain things. You said just scientific method and pattern recognition. Okay. So once again, then you're talking about some stuff that's faith. Scientific theory, right? It's still going to have to be there. Pattern recognition, sure. But, you know, like I comprehend pattern recognition to a certain degree. I won't say it's my main stuff, but also I've recognized things through stuff as well. I mean, I can say I've traveled and yes, I've gone to places. I know my culture. I'm not somebody who's separated from where I am. I actually know, the people where I come from. I know the language. I'm able to uphold and upkeep some of those things. I've been authorized to be able to carry certain things and even certain things that in our tribe and stuff we're not supposed to even discuss with others. But I hear a lot of people tell us what matters and what matches and what's real and what's not. And I'm like, y'all haven't even been to some of the places that you swear that you do. right? So so that's what I'm saying. There's just some things where I feel like for example, here's some practical application, because we can go into all these different places. Here's some practical application. Being equally yoked. Have you ever gone and have you ever been to an Israelite tribe? There's still many of them out there all over the place today to do this. But have you ever been somewhere and seen what equally yoked means specifically with those oxen, the way that they use it with the specific yoke, the timing of it, the calls, the commands, and all that? Because if not, you can talk about being equally yoked and never know what they're talking about. Because a lot of people say equally yoked, we got to believe the same thing. No, that's not even what equally yoked means. Equally yoked, once we put this on, this we're never going to take it off. No, because when animals get yoked, they get yoked for a specific duty, and then you can take it off. Right? So those are the things that are there, right? Is that there gets to be a place. And even when I hear people say stuff, and I'm not coming at the person who just made the comment, but even when I hear, I've heard this new thing now, and it's not even new. It's just something where it's like, biblically, you're not even supposed to argue with anybody. Well, hold fast. Time out, because what we're trying to say is I'm gonna say whatever I say, and if anybody says something against it, I'm gonna just say I said what I said. That's not what the scripture said. Doesn't the scripture say stuff like you need to be able to make sure that when somebody asks you what you hope in, that you can be able to explain it? So I don't have to yell or anything, but if you know what an argument is a debate. If you know what a debate is, a debate has rules. There's even some versions of that verse. What is that? 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 15. There's even some versions that instead of saying argument, we're saying discussion. It even uses the word debate. Right? So the problem is that people don't know how to debate. Debates have rules. Debates should make sure that both sides are at least put on the table. And that in order to be successful in debate, I have to know the other side just as well as I know my side. So we can't have a real debate if both cultures can't be integrated into the conversation. You see what I'm saying? So and I'm not coming at anybody specific, right? I'm just trying to get people to see, right? Or when we talk about marriage in our culture, right? And biblically speaking, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. You know what I'm saying? Right? So in our culture, sex is marriage, marriage is sex, right? So and even according to law, you know that your marriage doesn't mean anything if it's not ever consummated, right? If you don't consummate your marriage, you can get it annulled. Y'all know that, right? That's how law works. That's how law works. If you don't consummate it, or even within a little bit of time, some states have consummated it, you can still go back and be like, yeah, we shouldn't have done that. And they'll help you. They'll say, okay, no problem. And it's annulled. Right. But or your marriage doesn't have to be going through the state. You can be lawfully married by just having a private contract. Because a contract's a contract. You don't have to be contracted to the state in order for a contract to be upheld. But we have this whole context of marriage. We think that marriage is walking down the aisle and being in the church or being on the beach or making sure she wears a white dress. You will not see any of that in the Bible, will you? Right? Come on, somebody. You will not see any of that in your Bible. Right? You will not see any of that in your Bible. But that's what people teach. That's what people preach. Why? Because they're out of context. They're out of culture. They're out of character. So there's a lot of things we could have a conversation. It's hard, once again, to have some of these conversations and throw this stuff around because a lot of people are coming once again with a piece, or I like this piece, or I heard somebody preach this a long time ago, or my favorite motivational speaker said da da da, and it's like you might be totally wrong. You said, have I ever seen a demon get cast out of a person in a different name than Jesus? I've never seen, well, let me reverse it. I've never seen anybody cast a demon out in the name of Jesus. Doesn't mean that hasn't happened. I'm just telling you personally, I've never been there and seen it. Now, I have once, let me not lie, is it once or twice? I don't know if I count the second time as a casting out or somebody talking about being slain in the spirit or whatever. And I didn't even try to do it. It's just like I put my hands on somebody. And one time, demon. Actually, I've talked to a demon and looked somebody in the face when a demon had him. So I can say, I don't know if you would count all three. I would say at least twice, maybe the third time, because the third time I'm thinking of, I put my hand on somebody and I said, in the name of Yeshua, be healed from the top of her head, from the crown of her head to the sole of her feet. And I kept saying it over and over again. And once my hand finally touched the top of her head, she was out. And that demon that she was carrying was gone. She was like a whole nother person. She had been somebody's psych ward, all that. So I can't speak. That's not a thing that I do all the time. It's not a gift that I say I walk around doing. You got to be led. And I wasn't even thinking that was what was going to happen. So I'm not going to act like I went in there thinking that was going to happen. Now, am I saying that nobody's ever seen a demon cast out in the name of Jesus? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I just say personally, I've never seen it. Doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. I've seen people do stuff at the on television and stuff like that. I've seen it on the phones and stuff. I've seen, now there's this one guy that seems to have all these people that pop up, and every time they come to a service, I don't know the guy's name. Every time they come to a service, it's usually a child or something, and or somebody. I saw one where the same guy was baptizing somebody, and when they tried to baptize the person came up and they had a demon in them and stuff like that, which for me was like, that's interesting, because you would thought the demon would have came out before the baptism, right? But not sure. I'd have to say it like that. I personally haven't seen anybody have a demon kicked out in the name of Jesus, but I have seen demons flee. I have seen demons tremble. I'll be honest, I've seen demonic spirits go across the street. So I'm not going to act like, and once again, I don't know if that's a gift. I usually have only seen it when I've been traveling in a vehicle. You said you think it bad as your heart condition and your current knowledge. Yeah, at the end of the day, and how you doing, Sister Bree? It once again depends on where you are. Where are you? Where are you in life? Where are you in these things? A lot of stuff once again can be done in ignorance. My son might not have been able to say dad or say my name for a while when he was first born. It doesn't mean that he didn't know who I was. So I leave the heaven or hell stuff and the judgment of things on that level to the Most High. Even when people say like they're called to preach this and that, hey, I leave that's between you and the Most High. Now, ordaining is different, because I have to be used as a vessel to ordain. So I got to be in tune with it. But like, even when somebody says I'm called to preach, okay, if you called to preach, let's get it. That's between you and the Most High. Let's see if you do what you're supposed to. That ain't for me, right? Right. So it's very rare. I think literally with one person in the last, and that one person's actually with us now. I think with one person, and they mentioned it first, but I brought it up again after a little while and after actually speaking a little deeper. But one person I actually brought up to them, is this something that's on your heart to do? Are you called to do this? Right. So that's something that's in between you and the Most High. I don't get into that. It would be wrong for me to get into that, because I'm not the Most High. You said you've always seen demonic experience since you were a child, scary at first, but you have control of your spirit. Yeah, and ultimately, even when that stuff happens, that's why you got to be prayed up and you got to be ready, because you're going to run into demonic spirits all the time. Like, people run into them all the time, like, and don't even think about it. Somebody's, matter of fact, you get demonic spirits on you all the time, and a lot of times don't recognize it. Sometimes you'll think you just don't have temperance or what they self-control, but this is a spirit transfer. You down the street, and you gotta make sure you're more disciplined, of course. But you travel somebody and everything's fine. Somebody cuts you off and then yell at you or something like that, and then you get upset. What do? You yell back, give them the middle finger. That's a transference of spirit. That's you got to start coming from a spiritual place. The spirit through the soul starts talking to the flesh, and if the flesh is starting to take over through the soul and the spirit starts being, because you giving the portal to your soul for a lot of stuff to come in. You said the closest you get to the Father, the more your spiritual eyes are open. That happens, of course, yeah. You said that's when you meet somebody, you meet their spirit first, yeah. So there's a lot of truth in those things, but you got to be prayed up. You got to be walking the walk. You got to be thinking about these things constantly. Praying without ceasing. That's communication without ceasing. Always asking the Most High, who is this person? What would this person like? Even the people that you're around all the time. Your babies go to school, and you just go, my babies are innocent. Yeah, your babies are innocent in a sense, but don't think that your babies haven't been around different spirits all day too. You might have to pray over your baby. We quick to spank the baby. You might need to pray something out. Sometimes it's not as simple as just getting the switch or getting the belt or yelling at them or putting them on punishment or taking away allowance. Sometimes you got to pray that thing out. Everything starts in the spirit. That's why when I talked, what was it, yesterday, when I was talking about the donkey thing yesterday, and I made the point to say, I was saying like all the illness and stuff like that, I was like, I can see where it is. It's me still having spiritual backup in me. And as I have spiritual backup in me, I'm dealing with stuff that needs to come out of me, just like in the spirit, it needs to come out of me, right? It's a manifestation of what's going on spiritually. I'm having a physical ailment due to a spiritual ailment. That's a great question. How much do you give the wrong spirit? How much time? How much effort? How much energy? Right? Depression is real. I tell people this all the time. I was once labeled as clinically depressed. I got to get ready to take my leave, by the way, too, because so my wife can be ready for class and y'all can bounce over there for herbalism too. Look, I once was dealing with stuff, and I once had a lot of issues and things like that. Was clinically depressed, and one of the things, I had somebody who was a truth teller who was over me, and she told me, "Hey, you don't have to be on the pills. You don't have to go through it." And I was on the 4th floor. I was on the psych ward, if you want to call it that. And she basically told me, she said, "Hey," and anybody else who knew me, even when I was there, you would have been like, "What are you doing here?" But I needed to get away from stuff. I needed to be able. I needed them white walls. I needed to not talk to people for a minute. Like, I wish some people had checked on me, but people didn't check on me. It is what it is. But I needed to be able to get away from those things, right? Ultimately, like, I couldn't handle. I was crying, walking down the street, and there's a lot of stuff that was going on. And but one of the things that the sister told me was, "Hey, focus on the things that you're doing that are positive. Focus on those things, right? Like, don't give depression as much as you give it. Like, if you laying in the bed all day, okay, fine. But if you can't get out of bed, you smelling this and that. Hey, tomorrow get out the bed. And even if you only get out the bed for 5 minutes, force yourself. As painful as it is, because you're gonna want to get right back in. Force yourself, even if you're looking at the bed the whole time. Just force yourself to stand up for 5 minutes. And when you do that and you get back in, your body will say, "Man, we won." Right? And then after that, it was, "Hey, now focus on getting your dirty behind in the bathroom." That's how she said it, right? But it's true, right? She was like, "Focus on getting yourself clean." All right. Enough is enough, right? You got a spirit in you, you a pastor, you a preacher, right? You got to come to the Most High clean, right? Get up in there tomorrow and make sure that you get a shower. Okay. Right. And once my expectation was, once I started expecting from myself again, hey, because I was getting to a place, if you won't get out of bed and ain't, you're not eating, whether you thinking you're going to off yourself or not, you're headed down that path, right? So once I started doing that, I was excited, because the next day it was like, well, can I get up for 10 minutes? After that, can I walk around for an hour? Couldn't go outside, but hey, can I stand next to the window, get some sunlight? How clean can I get while I'm in here? Can I get back into doing this stuff, so when I get out of here and I actually get my smell, my nice smells and all that stuff and things like that, I can actually have a nice cleansing moment that feels really nice to the skin and all that. Right? Like, it turns into something else. So even with some of those things, like, we can focus, and sometimes focusing on those things opens a portal. What you focus on often will open a portal to something. Yeah, just like getting ready for your job, or getting ready for life, right? Yep, get that serotonin moving, eat some serotonin, take some serotonin, right? A lot of people be like, melatonin don't work, and it's like, you took it for 2 days. You took it one time when you were trying to sleep. Melatonin keeps me up. You probably got a serotonin deficient. You probably, got serotonin at the wrong time of day. Make sure that you getting your body used to having serotonin at the beginning of the day, and that towards the end, once you've ate and you don't have anything left in, melatonin. Also, too, do some stuff like meditation. And meditation doesn't just have to be even though I wouldn't be mad at you if you did that, right? But meditate on the word, or do some breathing exercises. For smokers out there, you ain't smoking because you want to smoke as much as you smoking because you like breathing in and out. Breathe in and out. We've given exercises on here before that you can use. We gave exercises, by the way, for those when y'all were with us a couple times last year when we did our workouts. A couple times we did 30-day workouts together on Zoom. If you do some of those exercises we gave you, even the ones that had some physical movement to it, those are things for meditation. I have a series about the Hebrew characters on there, but the Hebrew characters on TikTok, it's the only playlist that I have on there, either on this one or on Kofi_43. So if it's not on this channel, it's on Kofi_43. But we do have classes. We're actually we started the classes. We're in the midst of our classes right now for the second semester. They started. You can still join up if you like, but they started. And if you want more information, I'll put it up as we get ready to take our leave because I got to get ready to. I'm way over time, so no surprise, I guess, to some. But yeah, so we got to get ready to actually let my wife's class get up and going. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, if you'd like to be able to get in contact with us, you can text us or email us. You can look on the website and get in contact with us about it or whatever. You can even, if you text us at the number that's up here, you can even, I'll send you a link if you want to fill it out, and you can fill out what classes you might be interested in, and we can have some conversation and get you in there. But I got to get ready to go. Thank you guys for being on. I appreciate you. I'm going to take my leave. I will see you guys tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern New York time on Kofi_43 or right back here on YouTube. Or for those who look on Facebook, we'll try to get that in as well. We thank you again. I'll be bringing the word for Shabbat Shalom service at 10 a.m. So we'll talk to you then. And then at 11 a.m., SOC community meeting. If you got that link, if you get the Google Calendar invite, if you need me to send it to you, whatever the case might be, just let us know and we'll get that stuff to you. And hopefully you can bring the babies on, babies of all ages, bring yourselves on too. We're going to have a nice little thing where we're going to try and write out some basics of it, some real basics of Hebrew characters, but at least you'll have something that you can start teaching, especially those that are doing homeschooling, and it'll get you ready for next weekend to start making sure that we get some homeschooling. And then we still haven't figured out if it's going to be on Saturdays or Sundays yet, but we'll get that for you as well. All right. So thank y'all. We appreciate you. We appreciate the king and queen in each and every one of you. Even if you're not living inside of that kingdom or queendom yet, we appreciate the potential king and queen in you. Please check out my wife, as always, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. We thank everybody for being on. We appreciate you. Don't forget, prepare yourselves. Family fast, intermittent fasting starts Monday through Friday next week. So we thank you again. We honor you. We appreciate you. And we look forward to talking to you. As always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor, servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice to the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. So I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, Yahshua, that you are loved, you are necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shabbat Shalom. Peace.